This is Chip Maxwell, and you're listening to the Retire Smart podcast with David Brooks. Today's episode highlights the power of mentorship through the Teammates Mentoring Program and its call for more volunteers. Before diving into troubling stories of government waste and fraud across several states, David and Chip also unpack what rising long-term bond yields reveal about global confidence in government debt and the potential reckoning ahead for financial markets. David, I do want to get to those stories about the state governments, but I want to make sure we don't run out of time to mention this. You were talking about good leadership at the start of the show, and there's a former black shirt now who is the CEO of Teammates, the Teammates Mentoring Program, Des Moines Adams. People are hearing his voice now during the promotional breaks in the show because we really want to push a couple of recruiting events, recruiting mentors for teammates coming up in October.
Well, I actually ran into Des Moines right after the game Saturday, and he was on the big screen at the game doing a pitch for teammates. And so if you're watching on YouTube, so we've got two opportunities for you to learn about teammates and if it would be worthwhile for you investigating being a mentor. And I got to tell you, folks, it's fantastic. Less than an hour commitment a week at a public school. You know, you go to the school. They make it very simple to do. But if you want to find out about it, come October 1st right here to our office. We're going to actually have, I believe, lunch provided.
We're providing lunch. Get you in and out
from
in an hour.
12 to 1, in and out in an hour. You'll learn about teammates, what it would take to step up and be a volunteer. Or if you're down in Lincoln, we're doing it Runza's national headquarters October 4th. And the same thing, 12 to 1, and lunch will be provided. Now, I'm not sure what we're providing for lunch here, but I'm going to go out on a whim and guess what you're going to get if you go to the Lincoln version of that. What you'll get for, and my nephew actually got his first Runza at the game, by the way, Saturday. Thought it was pretty good. But yeah, we talked about leadership earlier in the show with Matt Rule, right? Yes. And Des Moines Adams does a fantastic job of carrying on the character and leadership that Tom Osborne set up in 1991 when they were founded. Yep. So
more than 30 years.
Great organization. We're happy to write the checks that we do to them and support them on air, etc. They're just fantastic folks to work with.
Going strong, but they really need mentors.
Over 1,000 kids right now in Omaha and Lincoln are waiting for mentors. So if you can give up an hour a week.
There's no obligation if you come and join us, but at least you can come and learn about it and get something to eat as well. All right, back into the news we go, David. Here is the headline. This is from the North Carolina State Treasurer's website, so it's a little self-promotional, but facts are facts. State Treasurer Brad Briner uncovers $170 million in unspent taxpayer dollars. And your subject line on the email you sent me was, "Never trust the government." I mean, was this a hidden slush fund, or was it just incompetence?
It's complete incompetence. And I need you to understand that I live in a county here. I live in Sarpy County, and one of our clients used to work for the county and was responsible for helping the Treasury Department move money around. The same shenanigans go on in your county governments. You need to pay attention. And this is one of the things I love to tell retirees that have time and care about these things. You should show up to school board meetings, to county commissioner meetings, city council meetings, and of course, state legislature meetings, and testify and ask questions on the budget. It's all public information, but you have to request it. They don't make it as easily available simply by posting on a simple website. And dollars like this, so $170 million just sitting there for a couple of years, Chip, right? We've had interest rates up. So if you just got 4% on those dollars for the last 4 years, that's $35 million in compounded interest that the state could use. And I'm sure there's school kids in North Carolina, there's homeless veterans, there's et cetera. How many different folks could have benefited if the state had been
without some service? They were either leave it in the taxpayer's pocket, and as you say, let him use it, or spend it on whom and for what it's supposed to be spent.
The citizens of North Carolina by that amount, and that money could have compounded in society and generated much more in tax revenue for the state. Again, we want the government to be good stewards of the capital they receive via taxation theft that they do.
well, speaking of theft, from incompetence to malfeasance, here we go to Michigan. Townhall.com headline, former Michigan employee pleads guilty to bribery, identity theft, over $2.8 million This is a government official stealing from the very people she was supposed to be serving.
Yeah, once again, and that's why I say you really can't trust the government. You need to question. Look, we need these government entities. We need to understand. I'm not calling for anarchy or no governments, but we need to hold these folks accountable. And it's become this, for the last 20 years, it's become untenable to challenge governments, to question what they're doing, especially during COVID, right? We got, that's nonsense. And reality is that's what we need the citizenry to do, is to question everything. And from medical advice they're giving you to financial shenanigans we're seeing going on, it's getting ridiculous. Instead, I sent you another story. Sadly, we've got one more of these to cover, right? $1 billion potentially of fraud going on up in Minnesota.
Minnesota, Front Page Magazine, $1 billion Somali autism fraud in Minnesota. Autism claims rose from 3 million to 400 million.
In 3 years, from 4 million to 400 million.
There's a Somali mafia at work up there. This didn't just happen with autism. Apparently, also feeding our future. There was a food pantry, a food program that was racked with fraud. And so
and here's how and why this happens. The government should not be in the charitable business. Period. Just like I don't think they should be in the private sector business. I don't like the intel nonsense we talked about with Trump, et cetera, here in recent weeks. But the government grants large dollar amounts because we put these big fat pork stuffed bills through Congress, and they have all these earmarks, and we're going to send $200 million to this charitable organization, this and that, and then unscrupulous people go in and create these NGOs that are not really doing the cause they say, non-government organizations, and they pull these funds, and it's for fraud, and it's been proven here time and time again. Yet we see nobody go to jail, we see nobody get really punished for this, and this is so much waste. It's ridiculous. But anyway, it just gets my blood boiling thinking about it.
Well, it was 400 million last year, and it's a total of 1.4 billion. And then, another 250 million on that food program. I tell you, the fall of the Twin Cities. My wife went to college up there, St. Thomas College, now St. Thomas University. You run across Tommies down here in Omaha a lot. There are quite a few. And I have relatives and friends who live in the Twin Cities, and they loved living. My wife loved going to school there and living there.
I used to love visiting Minneapolis, frankly.
I've been up there several times to visit, but I'll tell you, in the last 5 or 10 years, with the political leadership or lack thereof, my goodness.
Different world.
Hey, David, we've got a few minutes here to play with, and I want to get to this chart that you sent to the team. The world's investors are sending a signal. Now, those watching on YouTube can see we've got a series of charts from the USA, UK, Canada, Japan, Germany, Switzerland, Australia, and New Zealand. And we're looking at investment rates and debt. And what is it that you're seeing, David?
Well, we're seeing the long end of the yield curve. In other words, longer maturities, longer dated maturities, like 25, 30-year bonds that are being issued from these governments. The yields have been skyrocketing on the long end of the curve. So what that's an indication of is that the world that buys these, which is typically big pension funds and institutional investors, is saying, no mas, we don't believe you can pay your bills. So if we're going to buy that debt, we're taking on risk, we think, because we don't know if you're going to fiscally manage your country's balance sheet correctly. So we're going to demand a higher yield. And so the bid to cover ratio at auctions is happening right here in our treasuries has gotten really weak. Normally when we auction off U.S. treasuries, we get a bid to cover of about 3.5 to 1. So which there's $3.50 bidding for every dollar that we auction off. Those auctions have been down to only 2 to 1 right now. And that is scary when one of those $2 is the Federal Reserve, right? So our government just kind of buying their own debt to make sure that we don't have just 1-to-1 coverage. That is telling you the world is saying, I don't think that you guys are managing the debt, which they're not. Obviously, we have $37 trillion right here in the U.S. All these other countries are overspending as well. And the debt market, which is way bigger than the stock and equity market, is telling you, no mas, there's going to be a day of reckoning. And when that happens, it's not going to be pretty for the equity markets either.
Thank you for listening to the Retire Smart podcast with David Brooks. If you want to learn how to generate lifetime income, reduce your tax bill, and maintain your lifestyle in retirement, visit retiresmartpodcast.com. And make sure to subscribe to keep up with new episodes every week. Neither Tom Osborne, Des Moines Adams, nor teammates are clients of Retire Smart and were compensated for this sponsorship endorsement as such term is defined under SEC Rule 206, subsection 4-1. For further information about this sponsorship and the compensation details, visit retiresmartnow.com and click on the Sponsorships tab.